And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to one of our other fantastic episodes and you wanted to come back and get some more. We have more for you. This is the podcast that is for podcasters. It's about podcasters and it's done by podcasters. And of course, my guest today is a podcaster and an awesome one, by the way. Talk about accomplished. These people have almost 200 episodes recorded at this point. We're going to talk more about that, but that just blows me away because you don't see people stick with it like that too often. And that's an incredible accomplishment, which we're going to celebrate multiple times throughout this episode. So get ready. This is the podcast that is for us, where we raise each other up and we help each other out. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So, with all that being said, let me just thank everybody again for all your messages, all the help, all of the well wishes, everything, all the support, because we've had so much support on what we're doing here, giving podcasters a platform to talk about themselves, about their shows, and to flip the script and be on the other side of the mic. And most of them really enjoy it. Some enjoy it so much that they're willing to come back 2 times when I mess up their podcast. So today's guest is one of those people, and I'll explain after I introduce her. Please welcome to the show the host of Two Chicks Talkin' Flicks podcast, Sarah Runyon. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, better than the last time we talked.
You're alive.
I'm alive. I just mentioned to everybody, Sarah and I met and did an interview, a full thing before I got sick.
Yeah.
I messed it up. I called her. I said, "Hey, you want to do this again?" She was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it again." So thank you for just jumping on and being so willing to like just give your day and come on over. That's awesome.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
All right, you are the host of Two Chicks Talking Flicks, right?
Yes.
And I've had a chance to listen to a bunch of your episodes at this point because I really do enjoy the different take on some of these movies. But before we get into any of that stuff and we start trading jabs, because I'm still sore about what you said about Terminator, but tell everybody, who you are, what the podcast is about, why you do the podcast, yada yada.
Okay. My name is Sarah. I live in Texas, and I have always loved movies since I was a kid. Um, I'm just a huge fan. And when I was in college, I was debating on what degree I wanted to get in. And I started with psychology, which I should have known that that was not a good fit for me because you have to have a foreign language. And I didn't grow up in Texas. And so I didn't learn Spanish.
Ah,
And I mean, I did till a certain age, and then I didn't use it anymore. You
right.
don't use it, you lose it. Um, and so you also have to have math, and I'm really bad at math. Actually, on my orientation for college, I had a shirt that says math is hard. And they pointed me out and made me stand up in front of everybody
Oh,
to show
wow.
them my shirt. Because I ended up doing my degree in art. So I got a degree in photography. Um, but like I knew you could major in um, RTVF, which is radio, film, and television.
Ah, okay.
Um, but like it didn't like sink in that I could do that. But I also, as much as I love film, I love photography. And so I decided, you know what? I love movies too much to review them. I don't want to pick apart a movie. I don't want to sit there and be like, no, Clockwork Orange is the best movie I've ever seen in my whole life. No, it's not that great. I bet you it's not that great. I'm sorry. There are other movies that are good. They're not Clockwork Orange, but they're good. And so I didn't want to be that person.
Gotcha.
Um, so now I review movies. It's just, I don't want to do it then, but I do it now. So
I absolutely, I don't know if I knew that before that you went that you actually you've studied this entire field in
yeah.
college. I thought you were like just I love movies and I'm going for it. Maybe I didn't ask the right question, but I'm more healthy now. I'm a better podcaster now. because the brain's a little more clear,
Yeah.
so, but it's kind of fascinating. How'd you end up getting into podcasting out of all of that as opposed to going into film or some other kind of thing?
So me and my friend, we worked together and we were on a trivia team, and we would just go to trivia every week with my mom and my dad and a couple other people here and there. And we actually were headed to Vegas for a big, huge tournament for trivia with the group that we played trivia with. It was called Sporkle Live Trivia. They have them all over the place.
Okay.
And it was like going to be this huge thing. We're all so excited. My parents had never been to Vegas, and we were headed there. And that was supposed to be in March or April of 2020. And
Ah,
obviously, we all know what happened in March and April of 2020.
right. Oh my gosh.
So our
Yeah.
all of our plans were doused. We couldn't go. We were real sad. And then, the world shut down and we didn't have trivia. And we kind of missed hanging out outside of work. So we had thought about doing a like a 90s or 80s podcast, just talking about stuff we love from the 80s and 90s. Which, in hindsight, that actually probably would have been a great idea. Because all the new young kids love the 80s and 90s for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Um, and so we were like, well, we could talk about this, we could talk about that. And then we were like, well, we love movies. Let's talk about movies. So that's how we started.
There you go. It's funny because you're right. All these younger kids today, and they call it the old days.
Yeah.
They like stuff from the old
The
days.
1900s.
And I'm like, 1980s, not the old days, dude.
Well, like we call it the
So,
80s, the 90s, they call it the 1900s, which is just, it sounds wrong.
I've heard that too. I know because to me at least, 1900s is like Yellowstone, like prequels
Yeah, yeah. It
and
feels
stuff,
like,
right? Yeah,
before cars were a thing.
right. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking Great Gatsby stuff. But
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Okay. So this is how you get into this. This is cool. I've wanted to ask you this about the podcast.
Okay.
How do you pick the movie?
Very interesting. Glad you asked.
All right.
So we used to, we just made a list of movies that we really liked, movies we'd never seen, and movies that we hated. And at first, we were just picking one of those. And then we got a wheel because we thought, oh, that will be fun. So I would make TikToks of us spinning the wheel to find out what movie we were going to watch that day.
Nice.
And if it was a movie that we hated, we would drink because we're like, that's the only way to get through this movie. But then we found podcasting and drinking doesn't mix real well. Um, we enjoyed it, but one of the movies we actually drank to was The English Patient. It's a
Oh my
horrible
word.
movie.
Oh my word. This
It's
is like
so
the Clockwork
long.
Orange comment. You're like tearing apart this
Yeah,
critically acclaimed flick now.
yeah.
Okay.
We are both Elaine from Seinfeld. Have you ever seen that
Oh,
episode
absolutely.
where she's like, I hate this movie. Like, it's a terrible movie. My friend, she her
I
her
remember it now. Yeah.
her aunt actually forced her to watch this movie. Like every time she sees her, she forced her to watch this movie. She hates this movie. She made her watch it back to back. Like they had it, they watched it, rewound the tape, and watched it again. And she's like, I can't stand this movie.
Oh,
Um, so
I love that,
I
by
had
the way.
never seen it.
Rewound the tape. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. And it was like a two tape thing. So that's two tapes you have to rewind.
people don't understand the struggle. People today
No.
do not understand the struggle
Yeah.
of dealing with VHS actual film tapes and
Yeah.
having to like rewind them all the time. And but that's hilarious. That's a whole other topic. But
Yeah.
the English Patient, another one that just hit the scrap pile.
Yeah. She hated it.
Oh wow.
And so we drank, but it's so long and so boring that it actually got sober by the time the movie was over. So we weren't as drunk as we thought we would be.
Now, is this a
But
normal occurrence on your podcast to be just drunk during the podcast?
not anymore. So we try to do themes. Like one year we had we'd never seen Harry Potter, either one of us. And so we did a whole November of Harry Potter stuff, and we're doing giveaways and different things like that. And then sometimes if it's, if we know like the 20th or 30th, 40th anniversary of a movie's coming up, we'll watch it. Or if we know like a sequel is coming out, we'll watch it. So we kind of just pick and choose now. We don't really have like a set thing. So
Nice. Okay. Nice. But that's a great way to do it. I mean, I love
yeah,
the wheel on TikTok thing. That's awesome.
right. It was fun.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. Okay. Wow. Now you do bring some other folks on occasion to like talk about this, the different movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you just invite certain people, or I mean, I know you have a couple of people that are friends of yours, but have you ever like reached out and said, "Hey, anybody who's listening, if you want to be on the show, give us a call."
Yeah, yeah. I put it out in different places. I was on Podchaser, I think.
Okay.
Uh, there's other avenues. I've just put out like, hey, looking for a host for an episode who wants to be on. So anybody who wants to come talk about movies, if you have like hard opinions on a movie, I welcome that. I have very strong opinions on Pretty in Pink. So I ranted about that movie for quite a while. So,
I heard that episode. Yeah, that
yeah.
was we talked about that last time actually because I
Yeah.
was like, wow, someone didn't you said somebody had like the emotional depth of like a fridge or an appliance or something, didn't you? Wasn't that the
Probably.
comment? It was horrible. I was like, oh my God, just threw this movie out the window.
Yeah,
So yeah,
he's
you hate that movie, right?
no, I love the movie.
You
I
love it. It's a
just
character you hate.
yeah, I just
Okay.
hate who they have her end up with.
Oh, you hate like the ending.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. I'm struggling to remember what because yeah, I listened to that one a while ago. I listened to some other ones real here recently, but I think
yeah.
that might have even been the first one I listened to.
Yeah, it was the last video or video. It was the last podcast we had up for quite a while.
Okay.
So,
All right. Now let's talk just for a second because you have almost recorded and ready to go out like almost 200
yeah.
episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've been doing this since for what 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, since September of 2020.
So
Um,
almost five.
yeah, we should
Wow.
have way more episodes already. We should have already hit 200, but um, just with different life happenings, things get in the way. I had two very pivotal deaths in my life
Oh,
in 2023, and 2023 was a huge roller coaster of emotions. Um, uh, Parts of it were amazing, and then parts of it sucked so hard. Like I got a dog, hadn't had a dog in a long time. We got a dog, and then we got our dog a dog because dogs get bored.
sure.
Um, and then my grandpa died. Or no, no, I went to Disney, which I had never gone to before, and then my grandpa died, and that sucked. And then other fun stuff happened, and then my mom died, and then the Rangers, my Texas Rangers, won the World Series. So it was like very just all over the place. And I think I emotionally like my mom was my biggest podcast fan. She listened to a lot of episodes. She would always share my stuff and just tell people about it. And when she passed, I didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And I just like we would record, and the thought of putting it up, I just I couldn't edit it. I don't know why. I just had like an emotional block, and I was like, I just can't do it. And I found reasons not to do it. And I still kind of feel that way. There's episodes that I have ready to go, and I just can't seem to post them, and I don't know why.
Because you're,
So
yeah, because you're real and you're attached to your podcast.
yeah.
I'm sorry for your losses. I got to make
Oh,
sure I say
thank you.
that because that's brutal to go through that. Um, I will also tell you that it's incredibly normal
Yeah.
for podcasters who do things the way we do it, where you're doing it because you love it,
Yeah.
and even your subject matter is your own personal feelings. You know what I mean? And when you podcast from that place, you're putting yourself out there. And when you go through what you went through and you feel like you've just lost a part of yourself,
Yeah.
then there's not always something left to put into the podcast at that moment, you know?
Yeah.
So don't rush that and don't feel like you're all alone on that either. That's how it works with people who do this from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also why your show's so good though.
Oh, thank you.
It's because you do it from the heart. You know what I mean? This isn't like, oh, let me tell you about the movie. Well, the cinematography was this, and I mean, you're like, man, I hate the way this ended.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we go in. We go in hard.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Thanks for sharing that. I think there's a lot of other podcasters out there right now that are hearing that, going, yeah, I've had some issues too. I know I have. I mean, I was in the
Yeah.
hospital for 3 months.
Yeah.
I couldn't really do a podcast during that time, so I've got a couple of gaps, but um, yeah. So I'm glad you're back.
Thank
So
you.
you did a pretty cool Christmas episode about Gremlins, and then another one in
Yes.
January about another movie that I didn't watch. It was a romantic flick or something, right?
Yeah, it's with the Anne Hathaway where she's like a cougar.
Oh, that one. That's right, with the young guy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's why I didn't. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm getting ready for a podcast. Let me go to a movie that I really liked and see what they have to say. So, um, on Gremlins, I want to point this out to everybody because this, to me, kind of gives everybody a little bit of an idea about, how you guys attack the movies.
Yeah.
First 5 minutes of that, right? You had another guy on. He called into the show, and you asked him, "Hey, what'd you think of the movie?" And of course, he hadn't watched it in 30 years, like most of us probably haven't,
Right.
And then he launches into how the dad of Gremlins is like the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, "Where'd you find this mook? What are you talking about? Bad dad's the bad guy." And then he started talking, and I went, "Oh, I never thought about that."
Yeah.
So you guys do stuff like that,
Yeah.
your podcast.
I I feel like we kind of turn stuff on its head and we look at it at a different angle. Like what our goal is to feel like you're listening to two friends who just left the movie theater talking about a movie like on the drive home. Like that's kind of the vibe. So typically we watch the movie and then immediately go record. So our thoughts are fresh. They're, you know, our thoughts at that exact moment. Maybe thinking about it later, we might have different feelings, but at that exact moment, that's what we were thinking. And we just want it to be like a fun vibe where you're just talking with your friends. We don't smoke pot, but let's just say we were in a state that you could do that. Like it's just supposed to be fun. You're just hanging with your friends, smoking a joint, talking about a movie, whatever, like that's the kind of vibe we're going for. It's
I'm
just
glad you
fun.
qualified that ahead of time. I don't smoke pot, but I just want just want to say this. So, all right, good. That's awesome. That is the vibe.
Yeah,
Honestly, when you're listening to it, just as someone who's not attached to the podcast, when you tune in, that's the vibe. It's a couple of buddies just sitting there chatting about the movie, which is cool. So if you like movies, they'll like your show.
exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very 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 cool. All right, let me ask you this: Can you? And I didn't prep you for this, so
Okay.
can you give me like 5 movies? Because you don't want to say one, because you can't say, oh, what's the worst, what's the best. But give
Yeah.
me 5 movies that you like can't stand.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, we're gonna start with that because that's gonna get the juices flowing, and you're gonna be ready
So,
for the next part of the question.
okay. Actually, I had a movie that I couldn't stand, and recently I've actually changed my opinion on it. So my sister, my entire life, has loved the Goonies. She loves it so, so much. And we used to watch it all the time. And I couldn't stand the Goonies. I was like, I don't get it. Like, I just it never resonated with me. Well, fast forward to like I think it was January 19th. They had bring your own bucket of popcorn to the Cinemark movie theater, like whatever size popcorn you want, bring it. It's $5. You get popcorn. So my sister and two friends, my co-host and another friend, all wanted to go see this movie. And I was like, you know what? It's $5 popcorn. I'm gonna go. Just to go. So I've never seen Goonies on a big screen. I was like the most into this movie. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm like really enjoying it. It is the most I enjoyed that movie in all the years I've ever watched that movie. So I can change my opinion on a movie. Like I
Got it.
really, really enjoyed myself. Um,
Love that.
so yeah.
I was like, she's gonna rip apart Goonies?
Nope,
Not
nope,
Goonies. Come on.
not
But
anymore.
okay, so that's not on the list.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It would have been
Okay.
until very recently.
So then let's preface this. As things stand now, and you
Yeah.
do reserve the right to change your mind later on down the road,
Yes.
today,
Yeah.
give me five movies that you can't stand.
So I think this is same with Goonies that I didn't see it at the right time frame in life. So I didn't see Princess Bride until I was much older. And I feel like that's important when enjoying Princess Bride because I'm not a fan. I
Okay.
can't stand it.
Can't stand Princess Bride. Got it.
People love Princess Bride, and I don't get it. Like I just not a fan.
All right, that's one.
Yeah.
You
Let's
can
see
count the
here.
English Patient if you want. I mean,
Yeah,
because
English
I
patient.
mean, you were all about throwing up on that movie. So,
Yeah.
well, okay.
Um, oh God. I'm trying to think like what movies did we just tear apart? Um,
It doesn't have to be one you reviewed either. I mean, it can just be one that
yeah.
you saw and you really didn't like. Maybe five's too many. You want to just stick with three, and let's do three, and then we can go to the other part
Yeah.
of the question.
Let's
So
see
give me
here.
one more
Trying to
that you
think.
hate. I love that you're having trouble coming up with the ones that you hate. That means you're not just some vicious hater out there on the internet. That's good.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
good.
not horrible. Um, we saw Geely, and I didn't like that at all. It was okay. Not a
I thought
fan.
that was terrible. So I'm kind of with you on that one. But okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
go with Geely because that's the only thing that like popped in my head.
All right. So here's the other side of the question because it's hard to ask somebody what's your favorite. You know what I mean? Because movies are apples to oranges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can have a favorite over here, a favorite over here, and I and you really can never put one over the other. It's like don't ever take either of them away from me, you know? But
Yeah.
give me your top three favorite movies.
Okay. So if someone asks me just what's your favorite movie, my go-to response is always Dirty Dancing. That is my
Wow.
favorite movie.
All right.
However, I think my actual favorite movie is Can't Hardly Wait, which we did for our 100th episode because it's
Oh,
also my co-host's favorite movie. So, but but I feel like a liar when I say that because I still love Dirty Dancing. I've loved that movie since I was 5 because it came out when I was 5. Um, so just something with that movie. I used to sit and watch it every day, all day. Like I love Dirty Dancing. Um,
so are you just a huge Patrick Swayze fan, or is
oh,
there
I thought I
something
was gonna
about the
marry
movie?
him.
There you go.
I
There it is.
Yeah, I thought I was going to marry him when I was a kid. We went and saw Ghost for like my 8th birthday. My parents took me and saw Point Break. Like, I love Patrick Swayze.
All right.
I
So,
cry. I don't cry when celebrities die, but I did cry when he died.
wow. Okay. So,
So that's two.
any Patrick Swayze movie kind of qualifies
Um,
in your top area of movies, right? As we
no,
move forward.
no,
But
not really. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, all of his movies are great. I really, Dirty Dancing is the only movie that I
okay.
love of his.
So give me one more
And
that
then
makes the top three.
so it's a toss up between Just Friends, which I really like. Now, I will preface this. I'm starting to feel like I don't believe in tearing down celebrities for different things. But the more I hear about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, it's making me not like Ryan Reynolds. And I love Just Friends. I love that movie so, so much. And it hurts that I'm like, he kind of is an asshole in real life. Like, oh, I hate it. But my other favorite movie is actually a trilogy, and it's uh, The Mighty Ducks, specifically
Wow.
D2, D3, and then D1.
Okay, did that. The other ones I actually get. No problem.
Yeah.
Totally see it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And my mother loved the ground that Patrick Swayze walked on, so I'm totally, familiar with this
Yeah.
phenomenon. But Mighty Ducks, tell
Yeah.
me, I mean, you got to tell everybody, what is it about Mighty Ducks that just tripped your trigger?
So, not really the first one. That one's good, but the second one, they were just a little bit older than me and my best friend growing up. And every time she stayed the night, which was nearly every weekend, we would watch Mighty Ducks D2. And we had it memorized. Like, we love this movie. And so then when D3 came out, we had to go see it in the theaters. And then that became like one we would watch after watching D2. And it brings me back to spending time with my best friend growing up and having slumber parties and all that stuff. So I love the Mighty Duck movies.
That's awesome. All right. I mean, honestly, that just crescendoed the whole podcast. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about some podcasty stuff, if that's all right with you. We kind of
Sure.
move through
But
that.
I do have to say, I also love The Departed. That's another one that's in my like top five movies.
That's kind of a departure
I
from the other
know.
movies that you just
I
named. What?
I'm an onion. I have a multitude of layers.
I love that. Okay. So tell me what you like about The Departed so much that it makes your top five
Oh,
area.
it's so good. Just all the different actors that are in it. It's like a huge cast of people. Um, I love the accents. Um, I've always been a huge Leo fan, so I really like that because he's in it and he doesn't have a stupid bowl haircut. Um, it just like it's just so good. There's just so much stuff.
Okay. So this is just a folly of the heart at this point because you just love that movie and you just love it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. See,
Oh, it's a
this
great movie.
this is what I'm
Martin
talking about.
Scorsese,
100% emotion, which is
Yeah,
just great because that's what movies bring out in us, which is so cool.
exactly.
All right, beautiful. So, how do you let's get into a little podcasty stuff here.
Okay.
How do you promote your podcast for the other podcasters out there? I know you talked about doing the TikTok thing with
Yeah.
spinning the wheel. So, are you big on TikTok and what else do you do?
So I wish I was bigger. I wish I was better at promoting my podcast. I really struggle with that part. Like I can plan on who's going to come on. I can plan on what movie we're going to watch. I can plan the date. I can take the time to watch the movie. I can take the time to record it. It's the editing and the promoting that that I'm not great at. I wish I could be better. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's like a mental block, but I just can't seem to like follow through and do that part. It's like I do all the other stuff and then I'm like, I'm done. I've done too much.
Okay.
I've edited or I've watched it. I did all the things. People are just supposed to know. They don't know.
This is a shame because the
Turns
people
out.
who are on the audio version only of this podcast right now can't see all the dramatics. I mean, with the hand up on the forehead.
Oh,
It's so
yes.
much. Oh no. All right, I'm feeling for you. So we don't do a whole lot to promote the podcast.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
what I do, I use usually TikTok. Like I'll go to Canva, I'll make a little thing, and then I'll go over to, I don't know what platform it is, but it's something that can make like audiograms.
Mhm.
So I'll make like an audiogram and then I will post that to TikTok, and then I'll post it to Instagram, and sometimes I'll post it to my Facebook, um, and hope that people find it.
Okay.
So
All right. Okay. All right. So that's how we promote it. We hope
yeah.
people find it. All right. I got you. You know what? At 200 episodes, I can't really question what you're doing. So you're
No, people should question what I'm doing.
you're certainly out there. Um, okay. I love it. Now, have you had a chance to monetize any aspect of the podcast at all, or this is just a labor of love for you all the way through 200 episodes?
So it's mostly labor of love. Obviously, I'm not really great with all the labor, um, but I do monetize with Buzzsprout. That's our host of our podcast.
Mhm.
And they like once you reach a certain level, they allow you to monetize. So I used to pay money to actually have my ad run on other people's episodes. And then somehow I got enough uh downloads in a certain amount of time that I moved into this
Right?
next level
Yeah.
where I'm able to monetize. And it doesn't happen all the time. And I've made hardly any money from it.
Yeah.
Um, but every once in a while, an opportunity will come and I can be like, yes, I say yes to all of them because I hated when people would turn mine down. Like, why? Why would you turn down putting somebody else's ad in your podcast? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, we're a community. We should all be rooting for each other. And to be like, no, I'm like, what hoity toity ass podcast do you have that you can't, like, I don't know what my ad did to you, but it's just like I would be in the comedy film review like section. So you're all doing the same thing. Why are you hating on my ad? Like they would put like sometimes they would tell you why and it'd be like quality. Like it sounds fine. I don't know what the
Quality.
quality.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, asshole. Like
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry I don't have $1,000 setup like you do. Like, geez.
you got to just walk away from people like that. Did you
Yeah.
see the live that
Ugh.
I put up in our private group? You know, the Podcaster Nation. Oh, by
Oh
the way,
yeah.
if you're out there and you're listening and you have a podcast, you need to join the Podcaster Nation.
Right.
It's free. Come in. It's an
Yes.
awesome group. Did you see the live that I did about people asking you like how many episodes you have before they come on as a guest?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you got to go back and
Did
watch that. I was awesome. So you got to go back and watch that.
okay.
Okay, but the whole idea is like, look, if someone's asking you to come on as a guest, that's they're giving you something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're giving you their
A
time.
platform.
They're giving you a platform to talk on. If even one person sees it, it's one person that you didn't have before. All they're asking you for is a little bit of time. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to hand you a link that you can then use to go market yourself on all your platforms if you want. And they're talking to you like you're an authority.
Yeah.
I, money can't buy that. So when people who are trying or guesting, you know, are saying, "Oh, well, how many episodes do you have?" Or, you know, "Well, your setup's not professional enough." It's all the same. To me, it's all the same ball of wax. You know what?
Yeah.
The heck with them and move on. Because you don't need people like that in your life. Someone says you're not professional enough. Okay, thanks. Bye. Leave. Move
I know,
on. Go
right?
find somebody else. Yeah, the heck with that. No, there's people in that group though. You're fairly active in the group. You post in there once in a while, and you make
Yeah.
comments and stuff. And I see you like posts. Um, there's guys in there now who are saying, "Hey, you want to do a podcast swap?" You know, like swap guests. Do you do any podcast guesting to promote your show?
Yeah, I try to. But like a lot of times people are looking for people to do stuff that is not my forte, I guess. I don't know. Like if it's other movie reviews, I typically go on those.
Hmm.
But anything else I typically don't, only because like I don't talk about finance. I don't talk about Bitcoin, whatever the case may be. Um, and until recently, I didn't really have a lot of like mental health things to talk about. that was like an eye roll subject to me. So no, I hadn't really been on. And my friend actually, who was on the Gremlins episode, is wanting to start a podcast. He just he like literally has no time. But he did one episode and I bawled the entire time. I don't
Wow.
know if I messed up his episode. He has never posted it, but I was crying almost the entire time because it was so fresh. It was the first time I was really talking about my mom, and he knew my mom. And so I just was like a crying mess.
Oh, geez.
And so, because he's had a lot of loss, he lost his brother to suicide, and he lost his mom to an aneurysm, and
Ooh.
when he was a kid. And I was like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know how you walk around every day. You haven't had a mom, you lost your brother, and you're like such a happy, positive person. And I was like, I don't understand how you do this. And I was just like bawling. So, yeah, I hadn't been on any kind of podcast like that. Um, but I'm willing. Now I'm a little bit less emotional. So,
Let me just put that out there for you. Okay. Because it's a great way to, I think anybody with any podcast anywhere has a movie they'd like to talk about.
yeah, yeah,
So they'd probably love to come on your podcast. And one of the best ways to either get them on yours or do that kind of swap is say, hey, come on, talk about whatever movie you want. And then you go on theirs and talk about whatever it is they want, even if
yeah,
you're not an expert, right? And you're just having a conversation. And then you're both sharing the episodes. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So it's just good for everybody. And that is the podcast guesting thing is so underrated by podcasters.
yeah,
We have we're on this side all the time. And everything we do is from this visual platform right here. We're podcasters. How do I get my name out? Oh, I got to be on social media. I got to do this. And if I'm going to monetize, I can only use Buzzsprout, da, 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 right? But we don't think about, I'm going to go be a guest like
yeah,
as many times as I possibly can and talk about what I'm doing. And then I'll have them on to talk about what they're doing. And let's see if we can grow.
yeah.
It's like
And
the most organic thing in the world.
and that's why like I love the people that I have on that are other podcasters on my podcast because they typically will share it. They'll be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm on this episode. You go check it out." And they're like my biggest fans. But if you have regular people that aren't podcasters, I find that they typically don't share it, which really kind of sucks.
Well, they have nothing to gain, right?
Yeah,
By sharing it because, if I'm on your podcast and we're talking about a movie, I'm going to share that to my people because it's another
exactly.
side of me that they get to see
Yeah,
that connects them to me more, kind of like what we do with this show. People get to know Sarah better
yeah,
and maybe they connect with you more through our show. Well, then they are going to want to hear even more about what you think about a movie because now they know you.
yeah.
So it's,
And
it's beautiful.
and going back to the monetizing,
Mhm.
one of my favorite podcasts I found from doing the monetizing, like when I would do mine and people would say yes, sometimes what I would do, because it would show you like who accepted your uh, audio
Mhm.
for their podcast. And I found one of my favorite podcasts from that. And now, like, I was texting with the host yesterday, like, they always talk about my podcast on there. Anytime they bring up movies, they're always talking about it. And they're like one of my biggest promoters. And all I did was message them, be like, hey, I really like your podcast. And then we become friends. I've met her in real life. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah. So if anybody is a retail worker or has ever worked in retail or just likes to talk about the work environment, but in like a funny way, listen to the Clopen effect. Um, Basically, it's close open. So, like in retail, if you close one night and then you have to come back and open the next day, it's called a Clopen.
Clopen, Clopen, Clopen.
Yeah, Clopen.
Got it. Just want everybody to know what they're talking about
Yeah,
up here.
the
So,
Clopen
okay.
effect.
That's
It's
awesome.
a hilarious podcast. They've also been doing it for 4 years. Like this week, I think it's been 4 years that they've done it, and it's just like two best friends talking about their time working at a grocery store together, and now they work at the same company again, still working in grocery stores, but doing it as a vendor instead of doing it from the other end. And one of them is a little bit more corporate. The other one is like a worker bee, and they're hilarious. So I highly recommend it.
I love that you're plugging somebody else right now on your episode. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
no, you know,
Well, next time you talk to them, get them on this show.
I should
We
actually. One of them
highlight
has
podcasters, so
they have two podcasts. The other one is Anxiety Makes Me Poop. So they they just talk
I think that
about
happens to a lot of us.
exactly. It's so relatable. Um, and they like she does like little mini episodes, just about different things about like her last one was about being a good friend and like when you're in a space and someone is talking crap about your friend, you stand up for your friend and
Nice.
like meeting friends as an adult and all sorts of stuff like that. And they're like 20-minute episodes. So I highly recommend. They're great.
All right, all right, all right. Well, let's get back to talking about you.
Sorry.
And in the
Yes.
interest of time, no, I love this. That's you're awesome. You're pumping somebody else. You're doing every single thing you were just promoting. You're promoting somebody else. You're
Yeah.
rising tide, the whole bit. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And honestly, let's get those friends of yours on here because
Yeah.
this is a platform for anybody. You know what I mean? Who
Yeah.
has a podcast? It's we are we're open to all over here. So, all right,
You're
awesome.
cloping.
We are cloping. It's the story of my life right now. That's not even a joke. All right. Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then I'll,
Okay.
I'll let you go. We're on a Saturday morning right now, you and I appreciate
Woo.
you giving me the time, but I'm sure you got a million things to do. So let me get to a couple quick things. I always got to ask my corny question. I think
Okay.
you might have answered part of it already, but and we'll circle around to it. What do you love the most about podcasting, and what do you absolutely just hate the most about podcasting?
Well, clearly I hate the editing and the
The editing and the
promoting.
promoting, right?
Uh what I love about it is like it's one thing to go see a movie. Like I've seen tons of movies by myself. So going alone or just watching them at home alone or with somebody else, like, once you are done talking about it, it just kind of disappears. But the great thing about the podcast is our thoughts are our thoughts. They're here and they're here for everyone to hear for years to come. I'm sure if someone goes back in the catalog, they will hear me talk crap about the Goonies. And I'm pretty sure we watched the Goonies for the podcast. And I'm sure I tore it to pieces. But now people know that I'm a huge fan of the Goonies. So, things can change. And I like that there's, especially if you follow someone from start to finish, you can see that transition. You can see how, like I love in movies or TV shows when they circle back around to a joke, right? Or they keep the joke going. Um, and so people who listen to our podcast, they can hear the same kind of joke or like we'll be like, oh, that movie's trash. And then, 5 years from now, we're probably like, God, that movie's trash. Or we're like, well, you know what? I used to think it was trash. Now it's great. So I kind of like that aspect of podcasting where it Goonies never say die and never do podcasts unless you don't pay and they disappear.
Nice. I love it. That's great. That's a great answer, especially the end. If you don't pay, then they're
Yeah,
gone.
they're gone.
That's right. Oh, I love it. Okay. I could sit here and talk to you forever, especially if we got back into talking about movies, because I love movies, and yeah, I like your style in your show too. So I mean, but I got to wrap it up for the interest of time. So let me ask you um, one more question,
Okay.
okay? And I ask everybody this, but man, you're like qualified as heck to answer this question at this point. All right. Um, Almost 200 episodes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal accomplishment. Okay. And when you hit that 200th published, you better send me a message because I want to shoot that everywhere that promote stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
Such an accomplishment. Really proud of you because that's fantastic. Um, but I always ask everybody to kind of finish up. What's one piece of advice that you can kind of offer out to podcasters? And let me qualify this for you, given where you are. Let's say the podcasters in that, like, 40, 50 episode area, they're doing
Mhm.
well. They're here. They're doing it, but maybe it's not, where it needs to be. What kind of advice can you give somebody who, is in that spot about, keeping going, about, what you need to do? How do you get to 200 episodes?
Well, first you need to look like, why are you not getting where you're wanting to be? So, like for me, we know that my area of problem is promoting. Like maybe if I promote a little bit more, maybe we might have the numbers that I would like. I think part of my problem is that I'm afraid if I do promote it and I still don't have the numbers, then maybe our podcast isn't good. So you have to find what your problem might be. And if you're really actually still into doing the podcast, because most podcasters, after 15 episodes, they usually stop. That's usually like the max
Yeah.
for most people. And usually also into a year. A lot of podcasts don't go past a year. So to get to 4 years and almost 200 podcasts, like I must love it. Okay, we got that. That's a given. But what else can I do to keep it going and to keep it moving? And, that's the hard part. 45 episodes in, like, where are you? What is your topic still relevant? Is it too niche? Is it too broad? Where are your people? And I know people say that, and I hate that. I actually hate it because I'm like, for a movie podcast, everybody's my people, but they may not like the same movies, which is great because we don't like the same movies, so you just have to find where your people are, how to get that your podcast to those people. And that's the hardest part about podcasting. And once you can figure that out, you're gravy. It's good to go. I'm still trying to figure that out, and I'm 200 episodes in. So, you know,
Nice. Self-reflection, really
yeah.
just checking it out. And that's great. Great advice. Thank you for that. All right. Anything coming up that we need to know about? Any, cool movies you got on the horizon or big events coming besides hitting the big 200?
Huh?
Anything happening in your world that you want to make sure people know about?
Not really. I wish. I'm trying to figure out uh because my co-host can't always be on the podcast. So I'm trying to figure out who I can have on. I really wanted to do an episode about why I think award shows should go away. And I actually asked somebody who's really into award shows. I wanted to do like a debate. They didn't want to be a part of it. Um, which I was like, well, that's kind of sucky. Like it could have been really fun, but whatever. Teach their own. Um, so I'm just kind of trying to decide what movie I want to do next, and if I want to release the five that I have just kind of sitting there waving at me every day. Yeah. They're just like, hello, don't forget about us. We're here.
Yeah, you know what I think about that? Just put them out. Just put them out.
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly, just put them out. Unless there's something like offensive or that you made a mistake on. You know what? Quit overthinking.
The problem is they're not offensive. What the problem is that I don't think our hearts were in it when we
Oh,
recorded them. Um, it just we're trying to do different movies. At one point, we wanted to try and do more like indie films or like less known films, and that's great. But the problem is that most people haven't seen them. And so if you haven't seen a movie, you typically don't want to hear people talk about it.
True.
And so that's where I'm struggling right now because I'm like, I could put them out, but like, do people care? I don't know. So I haven't put them out yet.
Okay. Can I give you an idea? Is that
Yeah,
all right?
yeah,
Put out a podcast you care about.
exactly.
And during that podcast, say, hey, we're going to do a special thing, and later this week I'm going to release an indie one about this movie, just in case you guys care.
Yeah,
Throw it out like 3 days later, but
that's a good
preface it
idea.
in one that you really like and that you have your heart in, and just say, hey, if you care about it, great, put it out there. That way, it doesn't disrupt your rhythm that you have on when you
Yeah,
release and when people are looking for you. But it's also showing everybody that you're trying something new, and let your people know it's something that you're trying that's new. Like communicate with your listeners and say, hey, this is new for me.
yeah,
Check it out if you want. And if they don't, they don't. You'll look at the numbers afterwards and go, well, that was a mistake, or you'll go, hey, that went pretty well.
yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let's do this again.
I
Just a
like that.
thought, just an idea.
It's
So,
a good idea.
all right. So if I see it come out like that, I'm going to be like, yes, she took
She
my
did
advice.
it.
That's what I'm talking about.
She listened.
That's beautiful. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. You are so open and honest, and you're just so real. And I love the way you do your podcast. I love the way
Thank
you talk about
you.
movies, and you're just a pleasure to have on. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you. And I need to get you on mine.
Oh, and you call me anytime. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about
All
because
right,
I love your style. So I'll make the time. We'll get there.
let's do it.
All right, good deal. And I just committed on the air. So you've got
Yes.
recorded proof that I said, yeah, I'll be there. So,
Now it has to happen.
all right on. Folks, you've heard another awesome, fantastic episode with another awesome, fantastic podcaster of the Podcaster Nation. This is the place that is about podcasting. It's about podcasters. It's for podcasters. It's done by podcasters. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.